The intelligence response was fast and direct. The first arrest came from a police operation across several countries, at least 3 people taken into custody in Belgium. The suspects linked to a car found near the scene of the deadliest attack.
It's about a car that has been unregistered in Belgium and was rented in Belgium and has been found back in the direct location of the Bataclan.
The 6 attacks were carried out by 7 terrorists operating in 3 teams. One of the gunmen who opened fire at the Bataclan concert hall was 29-year-old French national Ismail Omar Mustafa. He lived in the southern suburbs of Paris and was known to have ties to radical Islam. A Syrian passport was found near the body of one of the Stade de France suicide bombers. Aged around 25, he had passed through the Greek island of Leros last month as a refugee. A second stadium terrorist is thought to be just 15. French police know the attackers weren't operating alone.
There are 3 coordinated teams of terrorists behind this barbarity. The investigation is going to dedicate itself to finding the perpetrators, their accomplices, their network, and the finances that funded them.
All of the terrorists were armed with Kalashnikov rifles and wore the same type of suicide vest, designed to cause maximum casualties.
I turned my head and there were several men holding Kalashnikovs who were shooting into the crowd totally randomly. They had their faces uncovered. The one I see clearly was dressed all in black. He seemed very young.
I saw the gunmen and there were several of them, and people started shouting, "Get down," so like drop to your knees. They were shooting, they were aiming towards the crowd. People were running and screaming and saying, "I'm wounded, I'm going to die." I heard some words like jihad and Islam, and I sort of, thought if I stay there, it's going to be the end for me.
It's now shockingly clear also that one of the terrorists tried to get into Stade de France with a ticket to the soccer match, but he was stopped by security. Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the atrocities with a new threat. This attack is the first of the storm and a warning to those who wish to learn.
C'est un acte de guerre.
French President Hollande has vowed to retaliate without mercy, calling the attacks an act of war.
By declaring war on them, you're actually treating them like another country, which is exactly what they want.
And Mike Amor is in Paris's 11th district this evening at a cafe targeted in one of those attacks. Mike, there have also been arrests in France.
Yeah, that's right, Mark. I'm outside La Belle Equipe, a popular bistro here in Paris, one of the 6 sites that were attacked. You can still see the bullet holes after gunmen sprayed diners here, killing up to 19 people. Now, the father and brother of French terrorist Ismail Omar Mustafa are being questioned by police here in France. The older brother of Mustafa turned himself into authorities. His father was also taken into custody, as well as an unidentified woman. Both men lived here in France. Their properties are being searched. Properties belonging to other family members and friends that have also been raided. Mustafa was linked to radical Islam, but not to terrorism itself. But it's been revealed that he spent several months in Syria in 2013, 2014, and now looking at ties to Islamic State. Mustafa was identified by a severed finger found at the concert hall, and they used that to identify him from police fingerprint records, Mark. French police carried out more than 150 raids, arresting 23 people, placing more than 100 under house arrest. Weapons have been seized, a rocket launcher reportedly found in Lyon, and this man has been named as the mastermind of the Paris attacks. Abdelhamid Abaoud is a 27-year-old Belgian national of Moroccan origin. He's from the same Molenbeek suburb of Brussels as several other suspects. He's said to be in Syria, where he has a reputation as an executioner. The back of that truck is loaded with mutilated bodies. Today, police raided homes in Molenbeek, seeking Abaoud's associates. He's well known to them, escaping a gun battle with police back in January. Experts say the Paris attacks make him even more dangerous.
This will give him an enormous charisma.
amongst his followers.
Among those followers, his brother Younes, recruited by Islamic State at the age of 13. In an interview with IS's online magazine using his nom de guerre, Abu Ud bragged of using Belgium as a base to carry out operations against the Crusaders. Police also want the so-called 8th attacker, 26-year-old Salah Abdesalim. He crossed back into Belgium hours after the Paris attacks, maybe heading for Molenbeek, that Brussels suburb known as a haven for extremists. Among the French raids, the Paris apartment of one of the Bataclan killers.
The police had been watching him since 2013. That's the last time he was in trouble.
President François Hollande says the Syrian and Belgian links emphasise the need for international action.
Les actes de guerre de vendredi.
Friday's acts of war were conceived and planned in Syria, he said, organised in Belgium and perpetrated with French complicity. He vowed to ramp up military action against IS. And the US Secretary of State flew in to declare America's support.
This is not a clash of civilizations. These terrorists have declared war against all civilization.
To help police fight terrorism, President Hollande is hoping to introduce a raft of emergency legislation this week, banning people from returning from the battlefields of Syria, stripping citizenship and extending the state of emergency for another 3 months, allowing authorities to place suspects under house arrest. While the politicians wrestle with strategy, ordinary Parisians struggle to comprehend the level of hatred and inhumanity expressed by the Friday night killers.
It's not Islam, it's more complicated, but we haven't figured it out yet.
John Kerry offered one explanation. He says the Paris killers were psychopathic monsters.
And Mike Amor joins us now from Paris. Mike, these raids haven't produced anyone directly involved in Friday night's attack, but they will yield other evidence.
Yeah, Mark, as we've said, they're still hunting the mastermind of this plot, but now a team of forensic and intelligence experts are examining every item seized, looking for clues, trying to stop the next attack. It could be a mobile phone, a computer hard drive, or even a social media account, Mark.
OK, Mike Amor, thank you.
7 News correspondent Mike Amor is at the Place de la Republique. Sunrise correspondent Michelle Tapper is at the Bataclan Concert Hall. Hugh Whitfield is at Notre Dame Cathedral, and Ben Lewis is at the Carillion Bar, plus correspondents in London, the United States and at the G20 in Turkey. Now, large numbers of people have taken to Paris streets to express their anger at what happened and to honour the victims. We have reporters across Paris. Let's go first to 7 News correspondent Mike Amor. Mike, you had been speaking with people who gathered at one of the main memorials in this central part of Paris when people again started running tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam, and it's exactly what the French government didn't want, large numbers of people gathering in one spot for safety concerns, and we saw firsthand why tonight. Something sparked mass panic here. There are perhaps hundreds, if not a couple of thousand people here, and they panicked. There were older people, there were young kids here, and they were running for their lives. Let's have a look at what happened. We're not sure exactly what's going on. There's just mayhem and panic. This square was packed just a moment ago, and then everyone started to run. You can see here, police have got their guns drawn, looking at the other side of this square. This could be what Paris feared the most, another attack. Yeah, thankfully it was just a false alarm. There were reports that perhaps someone, for only a reason that person would know, let off some fireworks, and that started the mass panic. But there is reason for fear here, because there is a report that perhaps one suspect is still at large from these attacks, Sammy.
There's so much grief, so much pain, and there's occasional mass panic in Paris. Mike Amor joins us now. And Mike, we've seen Parisians very defiant, but obviously on edge. You were on the street when the mood suddenly changed.
Yeah, Mark, I was with a camera crew in Place de la Republique setting up for a live cross, much like this one. There was no obvious trigger, nothing that we heard, but someone got spooked, cried out, and the whole crowd just panicked. A candlelight vigil, a scream, then a stampede. Hundreds flee in panic from Republic Place at the centre of Friday's attacks. What's happened? What happened? What happened?
I don't know.
People dived into nearby restaurants, ducked under tables. Police with guns drawn took up defensive positions, trying to find the source of the threat. Our camera team was just metres away. We're not sure exactly what's going on. There's just mayhem and panic. This square was packed just a moment ago, and then everyone started to run. Some say it was sparked by firecrackers, but we heard nothing. A similar panic nearby was caused by a light bulb exploding. More pictures have emerged from the Bataclan concert hall and the bloody aftermath on stage. One of those responsible and still on the run is 26-year-old Brussels-born Salah Abdeslam. He was pulled over near the French-Belgium border hours after the attacks, but allowed to proceed. Police, realising their mistake, when it was found Salah had rented one of the cars used by the attackers. His brother Ibrahim died in that attack, while his father and another brother have been arrested in Belgium. Other suspects in the Paris attacks include French-born Ismail Omar Mustafa, 29, Islamic jihadist Bilal Hadfi, and a Syrian refugee with a passport in the name of Ahmed al-Mohammed. Mustafa was a small-time crook known to have travelled to Algeria and Syria. He was identified from a severed finger found at the concert hall. 6 members of Mustafa's family are now under arrest. Bilal Hadfi reportedly fought with Islamic State in Syria, but then moved back to Belgium. And al-Mohammed passed through the Greek island of Leros just last month, posing as a refugee. As the investigation continues, police have warned against large gatherings, but Parisians are not deterred. In this city of light, they refuse to hide.
All the people of France standing together.
Only when we come together, we are realizing our power as a mass.
Yeah, the streets are quiet now, Mark, but don't be surprised if we see more panic in a city that will remain on edge for a while to come, Mark.
OK, Mike Amor in Paris, thank you. Now as
This is 7 News at 6 with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. We begin tonight with another dramatic gun battle in Paris that's left several police officers wounded. The shootings and explosions began in the middle of the night in the northern suburb of Saint-Denis. Mike Amor is there. Mike, we understand the terror suspects started firing from the windows of a flat just as soon as police arrived.
Yeah, Mark, that's right. We heard a number of heavy exchanges of gunfire, followed by a series of loud explosions coming from that street down there where we believe police have pinned down the mastermind of the Paris terror attacks. Media are reporting that 3 fugitives are dead after a woman set off a suicide vest. A gun battle on the streets of Paris again. Not far from the stadium where bombs exploded on Saturday, a wild gunfight opened up at 4:30 in the morning. Police have been hunting 2, possibly 3 fugitives, including Mastermind Abdelhamid Abaoud. There have been reports suspects were holed up in a flat and that there have been casualties, including a police officer. We're hearing heavy explosions coming down the street here. We're not sure exactly what's happening, whether that's the police, whether that's the fugitives, perhaps as the police try to arrest them. There have also been raids in Belgium today as the terror alert there was increased after reports that Paris terrorist Salah Abdeslam had been seen near a major stadium. Today we got a look at the hotel rooms he stayed in with his gang. French police not entirely sure what the syringes were for.
It does not actually look like the sort of improvised laboratory equipment we would see if we were looking for improvised explosives being manufactured.
Earlier today, there was terror in the air, affecting 2 Air France jets. Flight 65, headed from Los Angeles to Paris, was diverted to Salt Lake City after a bomb threat. Shortly after, Air France Flight 55 from Washington to Paris diverted to Halifax, Canada. All passengers are safe. In Germany this morning, tens of thousands were evacuated, with Paris on their mind. Police claimed they had concrete information someone was planning to bomb the soccer stadium. They found nothing, but the game was cancelled. For a third night, French fighter bombers have been loaded with guided missiles for another night of raids against Islamic State targets in Syria. They've been guided by US satellites and UK drones, which have helped identify what have been described as high-value command and control targets. Russia has also promised vengeance in the form of cruise missiles after the bombing of a Russian jetliner over Egypt.
We'll search for them everywhere. Wherever they're hiding, anywhere on the planet, we'll punish them.
Let's go back to Mike Amor live from the scene of that gun battle in Paris. A siege is now playing out. Mike, the army has now moved in?
Yeah, we've seen a number of trucks full of soldiers coming into this area to cordon off this entire area. Locals have been warned to stay inside. Schools have been cancelled for the day. This is all playing out not far, Mark, from the stadium where those suicide attacks started here in Paris on Friday night. Again, we've heard a number of explosions in the last half an hour or so. So perhaps this siege may be coming to an end, Mark.
OK, Mike, we'll come back to you if there are any major developments. Thank you. Welcome back. There have been developments in Paris after a deadly gun battle and explosions during terror raids. Let's go back to Mike Amor on the scene. Mike, what's the latest on the death and injury toll?
Mark, we're hearing more reports that one woman inside that flat exploded a suicide vest. Another terrorist suspect was taken out by a police sniper. We're hearing that one of those suspects is still in the building and that a passerby has been killed and 3 police officers wounded. You see some dramatic video right now taken by my cameraman Duncan McLeod of police running through the streets here, searching for any other potential suspects. Just before that, we heard a series of explosions. Let's listen. I've got to say that things seem to have calmed down somewhat here at the scene, so perhaps we could be getting towards the end of this siege. Mark.
Yeah, let's hope the ringleader's days on the run are over. Mike Amor in Paris, thank you.
Sam, I think one of the problems is that that apartment was so heavily damaged, one of the floors came down on top of the other. They're going to have to rely upon DNA evidence. However, the Washington Post is reporting that it has 2 intelligence officials who have confirmed that Aboud was inside that apartment and is among the dead. So not officially from the Paris prosecutor, but certainly a lot of speculation. That would be a significant development because they thought he was in the battlefields of Syria. They thought he gave the order from Syria. Instead, they've found him in a northern suburb here and have killed him in what was a fierce gun battle that raged on for hours. 5,000 bullets were fired, as you mentioned. They had to use grenades and heavy explosives as well. And in the last couple of hours, we've also heard a number of explosions as they clear the scene there. They think those apartments may have been booby-trapped. They're trying to get the investigators inside to get to some valuable information.
Yeah, surprising. We all thought this bloke was in Syria and he was, it turns out he may have been right under our noses here in Paris. Very frightening. Now, Mike, authorities say they have neutralised another terrorist cell which was ready to strike.
Yeah, these people were planning, we understand, to strike a shopping centre and a business district the following day. I don't know whether that means today or tomorrow, but they were very close to pulling off this plot, apparently. They had a lot of weapons inside that apartment building. They tried to breach the door of that apartment building. It was fortified. They tried to blow the door off, apparently off the hinges. It didn't work. That led to that firefight. A lot of weapons inside. The female inside is Aboud's cousin. She fired upon police and then set off her suicide vest. So while they weren't ready for authorities, they certainly had a lot of weapons inside and were able to fight back very fiercely.